allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. James?
Take attendance. President Schaefer.
Here.
Vice President Reese, absent. Secretary Summers here. Treasurer Hanser.
Present.
Trustee McDonough.
Here.
Trustee Schultz.
Here.
Trustee Whitney. Here.
Okay. Changes to the board agenda?
I have one. We need to remove item 6B from the agenda. That is the FOIA appeal. That appeal has been withdrawn.
Okay. That was 6B?
Yes, item 6B.
Okay.
Also, we have just heard from Ms. Brad from Guideposts, and he is stuck in traffic right now. He estimates he'll be here around 6:50, but if he doesn't make it by the time we get to his agenda item, we'll just keep moving it down.
Okay.
Okay.
I wanted to read something about with the Miller with the Miller hearings that started a week and a half ago. As a school board, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the recent Miller hearings that has so deeply affected our district families and our staff. Our community has been through so much over the past 20 months, from the moment the tragedy began and throughout the arduous journey of grief and recovery ever since. The Miller hearing that started on July 27th has been difficult, to say the least, as we have all learned of new evidence and details. We want to take a moment to acknowledge the incredible courage and strength of our students and staff who testified at the hearing, and all those who have been impacted by those court proceedings. So many people showed extraordinary bravery and heroism during and after November 30th as they endured the unimaginable. Our incredible community partners deserve such gratitude for their constant support and care for all of us in our school community. Easter Seals, the All for Oxford Resiliency Center, Common Ground, North Oakland County Coalition, and the New Oakland Family Services. We are thankful for their dedicated work with us thus far and in the days ahead.
42 strong too.
42.
For the community.
Yep.
A lot.
Lot of support for the 42 strong programs.
Unfortunate, you have to be reminded of that.
Sorry about that.
We have two requests for scheduled public comment on an agenda item.
We do?
We do. Do you have those requests, Angela?
I have them.
Pardon?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. One is from Donna Blake, and the other one is from Raymond Blake. I don't know who wants to go first, but
I'll go first.
Okay, great.
I'm going to talk about this, so if you guys want to take one, maybe just remember, Dr. Markovich, please.
thank you.
Okay.
Is this on?
I think it's on now.
I can hear you.
Okay. All right, I'm going to talk about, please turn to page 1 of the Guidepost Varnum contract that was passed around, given to you. We recently received this contract between Guidepost and Varnum LLP regarding the work that Guidepost was going to be doing at Oxford Community Schools. The main points from this contract are the following. On page 1, the 2.1, the purpose of the engagement is for Guidepost to perform certain services and consult with Varnum LLP concerning Varnum's legal strategy and advice to Oxford School Board in connection with the various matters about which the Oxford School Board has engaged Varnum. Excuse me. During which time, Guidepost will work under Varnum's direction and report directly to Varnum. Any such work will be adjunct to Varnum's services as attorneys. 3.1 on this very same page 1, confidentiality. All communications between Guidepost and any authorized representative, agent, or attorney acting on behalf of the Oxford School Board, including but not limited to any person employed by Varnum, shall be regarded as confidential and made solely for the purpose of assisting Varnum in rendering legal advice to the Oxford School Board. 3.2 on page 1. All notes, interview memoranda, work papers, records, documents, or other work product, regardless of the nature and source from which they emanate, shall be held by Guidepost solely for Varnum's convenience and subject to Varnum's unqualified right to instruct Guidepost with respect to their possession and control. All documents prepared by Guidepost or under Guidepost's direction in connection with this matter belong to Varnum. Subject to the provisions of Article 5, which is subpoena or efforts to gain access to information of this agreement, Guidepost agrees to immediately return all documents, records, and work papers to Varnum at Varnum's request in any event at the completion of Guidepost's work on this matter. Guidepost also agrees to destroy all electronic copies of all documents, records, and work papers at Varnum's request in any event at the completion of Guidepost's work on this matter. Because my time is up, my husband Ray will continue with more of the disturbing main points in this Guidepost Varnum contract. Thank you.
Continuing on with the contract on page 2, 3.3. Guidepost will treat and maintain as privileged and confidential all information that has been communicated or provided to Guidepost or Varnum or Oxford schools relating to any activity, project undertaken as part of the engagement, and will not reveal or utilize it in any way except with Varnum's approval. Provided, however, that subject to the provisions of subpoenas or efforts to gain access to information, Guidepost may reveal such information pursuant to a lawful final judicial or administrative order. Upon receipt of any government process requesting such information, Guidepost will provide notice to Varnum. In addition, when possible and to the extent permissible by law, under the circumstances, Guidepost will afford Varnum and the Oxford School Board an opportunity to challenge such processes at the Oxford School Board's sole discretion and expense. In the alternative, subject to the provisions of subpoenas or efforts to gain access or information, should Varnum so direct. Guidepost will undertake to challenge such processes at the Oxford School Board's sole expense, provided that such challenge is permitted by law under the circumstances. Guidepost will, to the extent possible, keep the existence of this engagement confidential. They don't want anybody to know about this. 5.1, subpoena or efforts to gain access to information. Guidepost shall notify Varnum of any effort, either by subpoena or otherwise, to gain access to information, documents, materials, or work product or information of any kind in the possession of Guidepost that has been generated, obtained, or learned as a result of the work performed by Guidepost under the engagement, or to otherwise stop, interrupt, or interfere with the performance of Guidepost work in connection with the engagement, whether by judicial action or other means. To the extent feasible and permissible by law under the circumstances, Guidepost shall follow lawful direction from Varnum with respect to Guidepost's response to any such effort. Consistent with 3.1 above, unless Varnum or the Oxford School Board provide express consent, Guidepost shall not reveal information gathered during the investigation, absent a lawful, final judicial or administrative order. Nowhere does it state the purpose of this engagement was to do a third-party investigation with truth and nothing but the truth coming out about the events that occurred on November 30th. I call on this board tonight to put forth a motion to instruct Varnum and Guidepost to release both reports, unredacted, with no changes, I'd like to see that done tonight.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Minutes of the July 25th meeting, we've got a new hire recommendation for the OHS Resource Room.
Can you move your microphone so we can hear you?
Anybody want to read the recommendation?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support? Amanda? Discussion? Anybody? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Superintendent's report?
I do have a report to give you, but I think it will be more appropriate to give it to you under item 6D. Okay? Okay?
Section 6, Board of Education Matters. The OMS 8th grade field trip request to Washington DC for November. Isn't there some? No? Okay. You all got that in your board packet. A couple of you had questions, and we talked about those. And so that's happening in November. They're flying instead of taking a bus, which anybody who has some older kids knows that they used to bus it, leave at night, and drive all night, and they're not doing that. They're flying now. So that's coming up in November, and so that'll be the 8th graders going on to that. So next on that is the guidepost update, which I don't think Brad is here yet. So we're gonna just put a pin in that. We can pop that back in if he he is on his way. And then the next one would be the legal opinion for the filling of the board vacancy position.
Right. The board had questions to ask around the process that was used in filling the board vacancy. I spoke to the MASB legal representative, as did Amanda, and I think we basically got the same information from him. We then got an additional legal opinion. MASB does not actually give you written legal opinions. They give you advice over the phone. So we went to Troon Law to get a legal opinion on the process that we used. And basically to review, the process we used is the 3 candidates submitted their materials, they submitted their resumes, they submitted their application materials, their written statements of interest. We then had interviews, and as in past practice, and then the board after the interviews was to state their preference for who to move forward as a final candidate for a vote, to be voted onto the board, onto a seat for the board. And in stating that preference, that preferred finalist, we assigned numbers to the candidates so the board could state their preference by number rather than by name. Now, there's been no adjudicated case relative to that process. So no one knows for sure if that would have been a violation of the Open Meetings Act or not. But the legal opinion we got from Troon said that in their opinion, they think it's likely that it actually would have been a violation because the intent of the Open Meetings Act would be to have named any candidate being brought forth as a finalist in terms of the process that we did, especially if none of the candidates asked for confidentiality. Now this gets a little confusing because when you go to search for your superintendent in the spring, your superintendent candidates will probably ask for confidentiality. And Open Meetings Act allows you to grant them that. So in the case of a superintendent search, it is, I don't want to say anything tonight that's going to cloud the issue when you go to replace me next spring. Um, we, anyway, you know, because I know you're going to have a great search. I know you're going to have a great search. In that case, you would have to review your candidates in closed session, and then you would have to come into open session to name your finalist. In this case, none of your candidates asked for confidentiality. So that practice really should probably be suspended and not ever used again unless you run into this confidentiality question. And then in the case of a board seat, because this has never been adjudicated or relative to Open Meetings Act, if that should happen to you again when you're going to fill a board seat, I'd get another legal opinion, because sometimes those laws change over time, and there might actually have been an adjudication, which would give you more information than you have right now. So I know that's a lot of words to say. I believe what we should do now, and I can't tell you anymore because I too have been, what's fair for you is fair for me, so
She's out of time.
I'll let you guess.
Wrap it up, Vicki.
I'll let you guess at what I'm about to say. No. So I think the way to resolve this for now is for every person to say who they would have preferred to be brought forward as a finalist tonight, so that we can put it on the record in tonight's minutes, and then to also have an understanding that this process will, at least for board candidate seats, will not be repeated. From now on, it will be by name, unless you run into this conundrum of confidentiality in the future. So that's my recommendation, is that you ask everyone to simply name who they would have preferred to move forward as a final candidate. We know we had 4 votes for one and we had 2 votes for another, but we just didn't name them. So maybe we should do that.
Okay.
So.
Well, and I wanted to say too, the first time we had to fill a board vacancy position, we had 22 applicants, and several of them had asked to be kept confidential. Several of them had asked specifically to remain anonymous. And so that's why we did that system, because we had also done that for the superintendent search, so we did it. So when I did it this time, none of the 3 candidates asked for confidentiality, but I just did it that way because that's the way we had done it in the past. So that was my mistake on that. I just did it the way I'd done it before. So, and that was the reasoning for that. Okay? Can you guys not hear me? I feel like you're, okay. You cannot hear me? Sorry.
Maybe pull it, maybe the volume.
Okay.
Look at this little knob. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
There.
Okay.
All right, so do you want everybody to?
Sure.
simply- You want to, Colleen, you can't. Amanda, do you want to?
Sure. I would have voted for Danielle Krozek.
Colleen Schultz.
Colleen Schultz.
My preferred candidate was Colleen Schultz.
Daniel Krojak.
Okay, we'll let the minutes reflect that, and
Thank you, Vicki.
correct. We'll let the minutes reflect that and then correct the process going forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki, for following up and getting that opinion for us, too.
Okay. Moving on to curriculum and instruction. Anita? Or Steve? Maybe?
We are looking to have a vote to approve the OVA ELA 12 curriculum that was presented last board meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Here it is. It was in the board packet. If anybody had any questions after the presentation from the last time, okay? Would someone like to read the motion? Mike?
Move to approve the OVA ELA 12 curriculum as presented.
Great. Support? Amanda? Discussion? Questions? Anything? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All those opposed? Motion carries. Safety and school operations. Allison? Welcome back.
Hi, thank you, yes. Went to some training, so. The first item that I have this evening is the 23-24 Student Code of Conduct. And so I'm here for your approval for that. Some adjustments that we made for this year were listing infractions in alphabetical order per discipline level. Previously, they had been listed all alphabetically, so we wanted to do it so that it was level 1 to 2 alphabetically, 2 to 3 alphabetically, and follow that way, make it easier on the campus administrators, but make it easier for everyone to be able to see the level differences. Another one was we added the plagiarism infraction. We referenced the policy numbers in bullying, cyberbullying, technology, and plagiarism infractions. For infraction number 33, the technology abuse, we changed all students sign an acceptable use policy to all families sign an acceptable use policy, and we clarified bullying and cyberbullying in infraction number 30.
Okay. And thank you for including that in our board packet. I didn't see any questions on that, so we'll move on then. Okay. Item B, OHS Auto Shop, the outside security door, the gate
Yes.
door.
So we have the gates that close and shut it out, but security issues when we have to open them so they can have ventilation. What we did in the spring was we had hired an additional Fortis personnel to stand guard. What this is it's a proposal for the 5 rolling doors to have a gate in addition to the rolling doors. This will allow the auto shop program to remain in compliance with our certification that we have. So in your board packet was 3 different bids. We will be going with the lowest bid out of those.
Okay. I know there was a couple questions, and then they provided a picture and some more information. It's not a replacement of the full door.
Right.
It's in addition to, so that they can have it rolled up and then have that down at the same time.
Because it does get pretty hot. I know it's
Yeah.
Michigan, but it still gets hot, and
Yeah.
there's not a lot of ventilation, which is why they open the doors. But then we have safety security concerns. So then the gates will allow for the airflow to come through, and additionally not allowing intruders to come through.
Just a quick question.
Okay.
Do
Yes.
these security doors also have the same life expectancy as the original doors of about 30 years?
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, I didn't put that one in advance. I just
That's
thought
okay.
of it,
No,
but
it makes sense.
thank
It's a
you.
good question. So yes.
Okay. Anything else, Mike? No? Okay, I see Brad has arrived. Are you ready, Brad, or do you need a minute? Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
You ready for me? I'm ready. Great. So I'm here to report this evening that we are in the 9th inning of the investigation, and our work is focused on writing the investigative reports. As was indicated at the end of June, we still expect to produce the final report in the fall. The report will not be released prior to the start of the school year, but rather after the school year begins this fall. We do not have an exact time or date at this time. The board will receive the report when it is made public at the same time as everyone else. To ensure that the district has the adequate resources in place for the impact the report will have on the victims and their families and the community, we will give indication a few weeks in advance that the report is imminent. Recently, we were able to meet with both the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office and the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. Each provided us with additional information critical to our reports. As recently as last week, the district provided us with additional materials critical to our reports. We watched the Miller hearing, which covered matters critical to our reports. We even recently interviewed additional witnesses who, at this late hour, decided to come forward and meet with us. Nonetheless, most of our time is devoted to writing the investigative reports. We cannot discuss which materials we have received or reviewed or witnesses we have interviewed. At this time, we believe we have received from the district all materials we have asked for, or we have been told by the district that materials we asked for do not exist. We may have additional requests as we finalize the investigative report. Each investigation dictates how long the investigation will take. This matter deals with death, trauma, and children. We are taking the time that we believe we need to do a thorough, complete, and professional investigation that covers many areas of concern to the board, the victims and their families, and the community. Any delays have not been caused by the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor's office has been very cooperative. The sheriff's office has provided us with everything we have requested as well. Oakland County and Oakland County Corporation Council have been nothing but the utmost professional and have been very cooperative, producing everything we have requested from them. There have been delays in receiving materials from the district's attorneys that we believe are due to ongoing litigation against the district. We believe we now have everything we asked for, or it doesn't exist. If we need additional materials, we will ask for them. Moreover, although many witnesses have talked to us, many critical witnesses have refused to talk to us on the advice of the district's attorneys, causing delays in our work. We will address all this in our reports. We plan to use in our reports information provided to us by the prosecutor on the condition that we will show the prosecutor the information we plan to use before we use it, to make sure that the prosecutor is okay with us using the information the prosecutor provided so that we do not interfere with the prosecution of the shooter or his parents. Ideally, we will do this in the next few weeks. That concludes our remarks, and I will now take questions.
And just so that I'm understanding correctly, you feel that our lawyers are the sole reason for the delay of this investigation?
I wouldn't say the sole reason, but I would say, yes, they contributed to the delay in the investigation.
Okay. You know, I know that you follow the news surrounding Oxford very closely and the court cases and the Miller hearing. What I want you to kind of truly understand and hear is that these families are going through hell every single time new information comes out. This community needs you to finish this report. This community and these families are slowly tortured with every snippet of information without having the full report. So I just would really hope that you understand the gravity of that and keep it in mind as you're finishing the report in the most expedient manner as all possible.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have something that I'd like to bring to your attention that you might want to take with you to clarify later. I don't know that you were here to hear the public comment we had prior to the meeting on the agenda item for guideposts. But that commentary was read aloud from excerpts from a contract that I'd like you to take with you. There was a conclusion drawn from these excerpts that somehow two different reports exist, one that's going to be released and one that's going to be kept secret. And I don't want that conclusion to just sit out there. And I expect that you will probably need to talk to Varnum as well, because this is about Varnum. I don't want that conclusion to sit out there if it's not accurate. This is the first time I'm hearing anything even closely representing what has been concluded by the speakers who came forward tonight. And so I would like to get clarification from you and from Varnum yet this week sometime, if we could, on those assumptions that were made relative to those excerpts.
Yeah, there will only be one report.
I'm pretty sure of that, but I'd like you to read those, and I'd like you to send me just something in writing, even if it's just an email, so that when I'm questioned about this further, which I'm going to be, you see all the heads nodding, I have an answer from you and Varnum.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, there will be one report, and that report will be produced publicly, and the board will get it at the same time. The public gets it. The board is not going to get any indication of the findings. The public will know at the very same time. We've had congressional members who have reached out to us, asked us for briefings in advance, and we've told them no. So everybody's going to find out the same thing at the same time, including this board.
What about the law firm? Did they get it first?
No, it's going to be a guidepost reports. The law firm is there to facilitate the work with the board, and the report will be a guidepost report, and it will be released to everybody at the same time.
According to the engagement letter, they can change anything they want.
Well, excuse me, please. We honored our commitment, okay? Please honor our process. Thank you. I've already asked that we get clarification on what you brought forward, respectfully, And Brad, I'd like you to take those, read them at your leisure. It is a Varnum issue, so you do need to confer with Varnum, I think, before you answer any questions related to that. And I think when you have a chance to observe it, you'll see what I'm talking about.
I would loudly resign before something like that happens, so that's
So-
not gonna happen.
But we're not engaging. Okay, thank you. So that was mine. So if I started all of this, I'm sorry, but now it's done.
No, they deserve open, transparent answers, and I'm happy to provide those.
If you want to speak, fill out a card. Thank you. Okay, any board member questions? Did I interfere with any board member questions? No? Okay.
Nope. Amanda covered it. Nice job. Okay.
Thank you, Brad. Okay. Moving to unscheduled public comment. You ready? Okay. Bobby Roop.
Good evening. So I don't have anything really prepared. It's just, I'm kind of baffled to watch. I've been watching these meetings for a while. I watched a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, wasn't able to be here. And seeing the way that you guys are operating and treating other board members even, where's the unity? And you guys have heard me preach unity for a long time now. I think 2 weeks ago, or I guess that was a month ago, I said you can't unite under a veil of lies. You unite under the truth. And you guys have the opportunity to do that. Each one of you, right, individually. You take that personally, but then you still operate as a board. You're a team, right? Team O. You heard that? You can nod your heads. It's okay. You've heard it. But let's not be status quo Team O anymore. Step up. Speak up. You can look at me too, each of you, Mike, Guy. It's okay, guys. I'm not here to bash you guys. In fact, I hate to see you guys continue to get bashed. But you can change it. People for months, almost a year, what I hear over 600 days now, have been begging and pleading you guys to do something. What are you actually doing? What are you doing? Each of you represent potentially a student that was murdered or injured that day. How many of you are there up here? Each of you represent somebody. What are you doing? What if it was your child? What if it was your family member? I don't want to see you guys get bashed. I don't want to see you guys get beat up anymore. You're all people. Many were elected, some appointed. But what are you doing? It's not a question you need to answer to me, right? You answer to the people that are here. You answer to the media. But more importantly, you answer to the community and these students that you guys lead. Not just today, but for generations to come. Right? We're talking about kindergartners, right? That are going to be here for 12 years. What you guys do today is going to affect them 12 years from now. So when you speak up for the people, for the hurt, for those that were wounded, killed, the families that are broken, those little kids are going to see that. And they're going to thank you 12 years from now. I'm going to wait till the beep goes because I want you guys to think about it. It's not me. It's the community. The globe is our campus. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrea Jones.
Honestly, I don't know what I can say that I haven't been saying for a year and a half. I've watched these families suffer. I've watched my family suffer myself. That doesn't mean that like he said, I don't think that it's lacked in your suffering as well, because we are all human beings. But the board, from the very beginning, set the tone. And so you guys are responsible for the energy that's out here. You continue, I'm almost at a loss for words tonight. Because I'm shocked, and I shouldn't be, I guess. You know, every week it's less and less trust with all of your actions, with all of your inactions, with all of your gumption and audacity. And that's really what it is, the audacity, isn't it? The audacity to tell us that we don't have the right to ask you questions. How dare we question you? When you're in charge of our children, you take care of our children. We have all the audacity to question you and to hold you accountable. Where's your integrity? Because you just continue to choose betrayal over courage. You don't need to do what this lawyer tells you. If you have a lawyer that does not match your integrity level, you're the client. Get a new lawyer. Happens all the time. I've done it myself. So we're tired of the excuses. We're tired of the denial. We're tired of the damn attitude. When these victims' families walk in this room, they should be treated with the utmost respect. And that makes me sick every time. And it makes me want to crawl out of my skin. And right now I want to cry, not because I'm sad, but because I'm pissed. I'm tired of it. And we're going to keep coming for you. We are not going to go away.
Thank you, Andrea. Buck?
Good evening. A couple things I want to touch on here. One thing is the narrative that I think you guys are being fed by a win at all cost, rotten human being, Tim Mullins. So I ran into a buddy of mine. I run into him every day because I work with him, and I've known him for 25 years. He's telling me how he ran into a former board member at a grad party. And the board member said these lawsuits, or some of the lawsuits, are all about money. So it got me thinking, why does he believe that? Well, I think it's the narrative that this attorney's feeding you guys. And you see what we're doing. It has nothing to do with money. For us, it's about accountability and systematic change. That's it. I don't need the money. We're fine. Another thing that he's been spreading is the district will go bankrupt. Educate yourselves. The state allocates funds. Okay? It's a complete lie. SETSEG will pay, not Oxford Community Schools. I'm sure, did you guys all watch the Miller hearings in detail, in full? Vicki, did you watch? Yes. Okay. And so, you know, Sherry and I were talking a couple of days prior to day one, and we were wondering whether we said we would never watch the video, the surveillance video. So we knew it was going to be played there, and we talked about it, and a couple days before we said we were going to step out when it played. Well, we didn't step out. We watched it. We were forced to watch it because we don't have one answer for that day. You guys made us watch it. Our grievance counselor kept telling us, don't watch it, don't watch it. You can never unwatch it, don't watch it. You're going to go back to day one. He's right. We're back to day one. We watched it, and we can never unwatch it. One positive that came out of the Miller hearing for us was we got to hear the story of Tate's final moment. Now, we knew Christy was with him, but she didn't share any detail with us because we probably weren't ready to hear it anyways. And as crazy as this may sound, but you guys aren't in these shoes. It was glorious to hear it. Like, Tate had a pulse. He heard her. He didn't die alone. And it took us 1 year and 9 months to hear that. We haven't even started our healing because all we want to know was what Tate Mears' last day on earth looked like. And I'm not talking about just the shooting. I want to hear the whole story. We want to know his interactions with his teachers, his peers. We want to know when he took a leak. We want to know everything. Right? As silly as that sounds, we want to know everything about that day. See, Sherry and I made Tate together, okay? Together, we made Tate with the grace of God. We own Tate Meir. He's ours. He's not yours. He's not our government's. He's not Setzeg's. He's not Tim Mullins. He's ours. His story is our story. And quit denying us the right to hear the story of Tate Meir's final day. Next thing I want to talk about is systematic change. I would. Do you guys feel like Oxford Community Schools executed job one that day? Because they didn't. In fact, did anything stick out in you in the Miller hearing about the shooter, how he wrote in his journal how he was hoping to get busted surfing stuff on his phone so he'd get sent to the office, and he would tell him about his Instagram post and spill his beans? You guys catch that or no? Did you guys all catch that? Okay. That's exactly what happened. He got busted and sent to the office. And there was nobody qualified to be able to peel that onion back and figure it out. You see, that's why Tim Mullins is working really hard to silence everybody. But slowly the truth is going to come out. Hopefully time doesn't run out before the truth comes out. So here's just a couple, here's why I believe that it was just an epic systematic failure across the board. Why didn't the teachers report to the kid to CPS? I think I know the answer. I think we all know the answer to that. But it sure would be nice for our government to hear the answer from those teachers, if the union lets them talk. CPS was sent to the shooter's house. Why wasn't this communicated to the school? You think about all this upstream systematic stuff. This was preventable. The kid's grades dropped. Why wasn't that info at hand? The SABRE assessment. You guys heard about the SABRE assessment, right? The kid was in the red. I mean, he was off the charts in the red. How come this wasn't in the counselor's hand? You make good decisions when you have data. And they had no data. So, if I may, I want to, just so you don't, we're working pretty strong at 42 Strong trying to drive some systematic change through the government. And I'm telling you, it's not easy. And it's frustrating because they don't really care. And it shows that they don't care. Our government doesn't care. Our school doesn't care. Nobody seems to care. Here's what really stood out to me in the Miller hearing. So when the kid said, "This is who do you guys think the customer is?" We're like, from the school's point of view, who's the customer? Go ahead. I know you're not supposed to talk to me, but who's the customer? Right, the student. I mean, we're the taxpayers, but the student is the customer, right? The direct customer. So that student thought the most important place to go in crisis is the counseling office. That's your student. That's a student talking. That's where he went. And he didn't get the help. And in order for this to not happen again, there needs to be a legit investigation, and there needs to be, we need to throw everything out on the table and figure out what went wrong that day. And unfortunately, if that shows accountability on the school's behalf, then it is what it is, right? But the bottom line is, is Oxford Community Schools and all surrounding school districts making changes in what your customer said is the most important place to go in crisis? Are there changes being made? I'm not following it that close, but my guess is no, because that report hasn't come out, because everything's covered up. So in order, if we all want to get on our soapbox and say we're about the kids, are we? Because we're not. Because if we were, we wouldn't let a dirtbag attorney pull the strings. So I'm going to circle back real quick. Thanks for letting me talk so long. So I'm going to circle back with the propaganda the attorney was feeding you guys about us, that we're about money. And I'm going to speak on behalf of our family. I'm not going to speak for anybody else. We are about accountability and systematic change. Kids' lives are at stake, and you, the board, the school, the union, the insurance attorney, Tim Mullins, the insurance company, SETSEG, and our government are sitting in silence and protecting what? Money.
Thank you, Buck. Corey? Vanderkay? Vanderkay. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'm here to push for accountability and to ensure gaps in policy and procedures are addressed to protect all of our children, teachers, and staff. I have so many notes here that I am going to skip down to, I'm asking you to share with the families. Well, I'm just going to start here. Hannah, Tate, and Madison and Justin's parents deserve a full account of what happened that day and what led up to it. I would like to know, personally, what happened to the shooter after he left the counseling office and was put back into the school population. Was he alone sitting on the floor crying in the lunchroom? How did that go unnoticed if there was all this concern about him? I don't understand why the surveillance video of him hasn't been released to the victims' families of that 1 hour. So I would like that to happen. I'd also like to bring up mandatory reporting. Seems like there's some confusion about the steps and protocols for teachers, staff. That also includes occupational therapy, psychologists. Almost everyone that works for the school is a mandated reporter. I've done a little research on what I would need to do to report something, and it's really, really simple. As a mandated reporter, you do not have to go to someone above you. You don't have to tell a director. You yourself are a reporter, and you can go straight to Michigan Gov and type in mandated reporter and register yourself. From there, it takes about a few minutes, and then you're in the system. It's like 3 questions, and from there, you can start making a complaint. The full complaint, it's about 9 pages. It's really short, though, to go through. You just plug in the details. There's a lot of questions there that you can fill in. You can upload images. You can upload drawings, such as the one that was on the homework. You can upload photos, such as something that a teacher might take of a student who's looking at things on their phone. You can upload any kind of documents to support your case. From there, it will go to CPS, and then I'm hoping that from there it would actually be addressed, but I don't know. We are mandated reporters. I'm a teacher, and can I just quickly finish that? I'm a teacher, and we are mandated reporters. The only thing is I'm kind of confused because by law I'm supposed to report, but what I've seen with Oxford is that the worst case scenario happened here. The people that were supposed to report the shooter's behavior, even suicidal ideation, they didn't. And so what I thought is that then legally they would be held accountable. They're not. So I don't see why anybody would actually even fill out a report, because it looks like I would get immunity if I didn't. You know, it looks like if I didn't follow through, even though I thought somebody needed help, and I just kind of let it go because, I don't know, somebody above me said, let's wait and see, I still won't get in trouble. And I don't understand that, because by law, I'm a mandated reporter. So I don't know. I think there needs to be anyway, some clarity on that, and I hope everyone knows that it's really easy to be a mandated reporter and do it yourself. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mark Gillum.
Hello, Heather. It's nice to talk to you. I don't really have anything prepared, just a few thoughts. You guys are sitting up there selling our community down the river, letting an attorney that you pay the bill to tell you how to run this school. Will you stick it to every victim? The ones that died, the ones that lived, our families. You've lost all credibility. We have no trust for you. And you sit up there with confidence. I'm just curious, and I know you don't answer, where are you getting your confidence? You know, your microphone was on. We could hear you. You know, we could hear the noise. But when it's hard to hear people when they have blood on their hands. And the administration that was in charge November 30th failed at every level. And you geniuses thought it would be a good idea to send Tim Throne off with a parade and give Mr. Wolf a promotion and keep all these people that failed this community with gross negligence. And now your attorney's running you. You're a pawn. Mike, all of you, you guys are acting like pawns. When are you gonna get rid of the people who mismanaged the situation on November 30th? Instead, you're protecting them, and you're putting them in our face. We hear you loud and clear. We hear you loud and clear. We're not going anywhere. We are standing with every victim's family. My family's been affected. All of us have been affected by this. And if you think we're gonna go anywhere soon, you're kidding yourself. You are fighting a losing battle, and if you wanna lose in public and make that a huge display, as far as I'm concerned, our state prosecutor and our county prosecutors need to press charges on every person of administration, including the school board members, for their failure to implement the policy, the zero tolerance policy that was in place. You told us it was in place. Member after member of this board got up. We have zero tolerance. So we have all these failures in administration, but no accountability, even though there's gross negligence. That is unacceptable. If you think we're ever going to accept that, you're kidding yourself. I hope you stay awake at night. I hope you have no peace until you step aside or put stuff in line and get this house in order.
Thank you. Grabkowski?
Most of what I was going to say has already been said. I will say 21 months, 616 days today. That's how long the victims' families and this community have been waiting for answers. And don't get me wrong, there are clearly people who were hurt way more in this incident than others, but this entire community, the entire community is victims. That includes you. You should be mad as hell at these lawyers who are saying, keep your mouth shut. Because of the Miller hearing, we are learning details that a good number of us didn't have any clue about. We've heard over 5,000 pages of sick and very disturbing text messages went between the shooter and his best friend. From that, I know you can't talk about much, but there are two things that this community deserves to know. One, has the district done anything to prevent his best friend from ever returning to our school district? And two, what was it? And what made you decide that he deserved that and not anybody else that may have had information? The school board is employed by the citizens of the community. Those of us that pay taxes, those of us who have children that are school of choice, that the taxes have followed them, we pay you. We pay the employees, we pay your lawyers, we pay Guidepost because we're paying the lawyers who hired them. We deserve the answers. That includes you. This school board, let me start. The administration at the high school that day failed our children miserably and grossly. The rumor has it they were not trained for any kind of situation like this. There's no excuse for that. There's plenty of it out there. I also want to know what this district is going to do going forward to help every other district in this country help prevent this. That is my ultimate goal. That is what burns in my heart every freaking night. My kids watched all these text messages. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Active shooter. While they sat at home and cried. My 15-year-old hasn't cried since he was 5. To watch that was horrible. This could have been prevented that day. Even barring everything you should have known ahead of time. This could have been stopped that day when they refused to take that child out of the school. Whoever was with him had the responsibility to the other 1,800 students in that building and every faculty member to check the backpack. Common sense. He has all this stuff for shooting. You know he has access to guns, and he didn't check the backpack. And where is this gentleman now? From my understanding, he is now working in another part of the district with troubled students. He clearly knows how to handle troubled students. It's called turn off your common sense and look the other way. He should be fired. Every one of you that was on the board that day should resign for your lack of responsibility to the people who pay you.
Okay, thank you. I might mispronounce this. Is it Kara or Kara?
Kara?
Sorry, I'm sorry. Kara or Skinny?
Ursin?
Ursin, I'm sorry.
As many have said, it's been 616 days since Oxford has been crying out for accountability, transparency, and genuine action from this board. We have placed our trust in you, hoping that you would step up and lead us towards healing and change. Unfortunately, our hopes have been shattered, and we are deeply disappointed by your failure to act. And as you've heard from people speaking today, the same message: this community will not quit. We understand that leading a community through such darkness is not an easy task, but it is the duty you signed up for when you took these roles as board members. We do not expect perfection, but we do expect genuine commitment to the safety and well-being of our children and educators. The essence of true leadership lies in acknowledging mistakes, learning from them, and striving to do better. By ignoring our legitimate concerns, you have eroded the trust that should exist between this board and Oxford, the community it serves. This community will not quit. Your failure to act leaves us questioning your dedication to the very principles you swore to uphold. Our community is tired of waiting for promises to materialize into actions. We are tired of being let down by those who were entrusted with our children's futures. All of us who speak and continue to speak, we are not just speaking for ourselves. We speak for the families who are unable to speak for themselves, who are exhausted from grief and shattered by loss. This community entrusted you to protect our children, to provide a safe learning environment, and yet our trust has been betrayed, and the weight of that betrayal sits on your shoulders. This community will not quit. Our community has exhibited vulnerability by speaking at these meetings time and time again, with the courage to lay their pain bare, expressing the desire for justice and change. We have waited patiently for your response, your actions that would align with the claims of transparency, and instead we find ourselves met with inaction, indifference, and the continued denial of accountability. Our vulnerability is not a weakness. It is a testament to the strength and love that we have for our community, that we have for Oxford. We are weary of pleading and begging, and now we are enraged at the constant barriers that you continue to put up. We are going to turn this grief into a catalyst for progress. You can either join us or resign. This community will not quit.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry about that. Callie?
I'd like to first say that immunity, right? Immunity was put there to protect. It was protect the public, right? It was so that you guys could say what happened and get to the bottom of it and fix it, right? That's what immunity was for. So if you're going to stay quiet, you shouldn't have immunity. That's just a no-brainer there. I'm going to peel this back a little bit with some history here that might explain why we're here today. I had said in the beginning, years before the shooting, that you're taking the eye off district students. You're trying to grow. You're trying to be this big entity. Half the students in Oxford aren't district students. You've made this big business, and you're taking the eyes off of our district kids, and that's what happens. So you have these purchases that you've made. So $2.5 million for the purchase of the Dominican Sisters property. I don't know if everybody knows that. It's 68,000 square foot resort thing, and it's got houses, and it's got all kinds of stuff on it. $2.5 million, but that's not the end of it. Were you aware there's a cemetery on there? Oxford Public Schools bought a cemetery, and we have to actually maintain that cemetery. It's in the contract. I have it here. We have to maintain it in a better condition than we actually have our own property there. So from here on out, we're paying to maintain a cemetery, right? That's a really good use of tax dollars. On top of that, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of improvements and other things that are going on that property. I have the list. I have it here if anyone wants to see it. Then there's a $500,000 purchase of another piece of property south of the high school at a time where our student district population is going down, not up, right? But you want to grow. And again, hundreds of thousands of dollars on that, $500,000 purchase, and $1 million between the two properties as of 6 months ago. I haven't even got the updated for attorney's fees and engineering and all that kind of stuff. And I still don't have a true accounting of it because you have not accounted for all the district time that you're spending there. What were you doing before the shooting in the months before? You were touring properties and buying properties. That's what you were doing. I don't want you to do that anymore. I want you to stop it, get rid of those properties, get rid of these boondoggles, and focus on the district kids. Do you know how much, thank you, how much mental health support we could have bought for the millions and millions of dollars? How many services we could have provided to our district school with that money? It's coming from the general fund. That's where they're taking it. It's coming from the sinking fund. You took the money from us for our taxes and you put it into that. That's what you were doing before the shooting. You have all these policies that you were supposed to follow. You were too busy buying properties to look at them. I asked for a FOIA on some certain things, and it showed me, because I asked for the safety committee and the parent safety committee who was on it, and I couldn't even get an answer from that. But if you actually read your policy, it would tell you about these committees and who's supposed to be on it, right? You should be able to tell me that. I can go on and on. I have this paperwork if anyone wants to see it.
You want to speak again? Is it about a different topic? I'm sorry.
Ray, Mr. Blake?
Did you want to speak again about a different topic? Okay.
That's fine. I shortened my first.
Okay, so we'll omit this?
Yes.
We have your permission to omit that? Okay. Okay, thank you, Kelly. Okay, that it? Okay.
Well, hey, I got a little off track. I wanted to give you guys my idea on the change. Can I speak about that real quick?
Sure.
So, this is, I stay up at night thinking about this all the time. Like, what could we put in place as a system to fix this, right? So, one of our ideas is the school's already collecting all this data, grades, attendance, participation in clubs or sports or whatever, any disciplinary actions, but they're not doing anything with this data. Nothing valuable. So you could put all that data, and you could also do a well-being survey, which we do at 42 Strong. And our parents sign off on it because they trust us. So the school might have a hard time doing this because, right? But you got to earn the trust back. But what happens if a kid scores low on the well-being survey, and it's a very simple 4-question survey from sad emoji to happy emoji, we look at those results the day after. We do them at our monthly events. We send them to their phone. And if a kid scores low, we reach out immediately. And then the next month, the kid's scores are back up. Right? It's so simple, and we're trying to complicate this. Intervention, the time of intervention is everything. You know, so anyways, that's another thing that the school could get put into place, and you throw all this in a dashboard, and then you make the monitoring of kids' well-being techie, but you make the interventions personal. The answer is hire more counselors. We could have had 6 counselors on staff that day, and they weren't trained properly. So it doesn't matter, right? So the kids should have never got to that point of crisis. So we need to start looking upstream and catching kids as they're trending downward, make the interventions timely, bring them back up to where they never get into a point where they're in crisis and they got a gun in their hand. See, all we're focused on, and this is our society, and you guys could be the product of this change if you decide that you want to strap up your boots and do something about it, right? But all we're focused on in our society is the event, because that's what divides people. See, all we want to focus on is this kid with a gun in his hand, and we're going to hold this kid accountable, and we're going to hold these parents accountable. And nobody wants to look upstream and say, what could the system have done to prevent this tragedy? So the system wants to hold the people accountable, but the people can't hold the system accountable. Think about that. Like, are you the people or are you the system? I'm the people, and I want to hold the system accountable because I want to see change. Because what our family's going through is hell. We can't even get to a point of starting to heal because we don't have any answers, right? Because the system can't be held accountable, and the system's protecting the system. It's crazy. And you guys aren't doing anything about it. So that's one of the ideas. Another idea that we had here is, so I'm in the automotive world, and in order for me to get in the sandbox and do business with Ford, GM, Chrysler, Toyota, Honda, any of them, any of the OEMs, we have to be quality certified. And what that shows is we've got processes and procedures in place to execute our plan internally. Okay, so the insurance companies, SETSEG here, the one who's pulling all the puppet strings, didn't hold Oxford schools accountable to have anything in place. But yet they're able to pull all the strings and not have any accountability. So another way of driving change is put a system in place that's driven through the insurance companies that makes sure that the schools have a team and people in place that are qualified, right? Like, so these are all things, those are 2 examples of the systematic change that we're running from. Like, kids' lives are at stake. The kids are going back to school again in a few weeks, and there's been no change. It's crazy. Because all we want to do is point at shooter parents. Right? We need to look upstream and solve this puzzle. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Buck. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. In closing, we've got some scheduled activities coming up. Like Buck said, we've got our first day of school on the 24th of August. Administrative clarification.
Yeah, I just have to tonight. With all due respect and empathy. Oh, please don't be rude. I sat here, I wasn't rude through any of your comments, correct? All right, thank you. I absolutely believe in freedom of speech. I absolutely believe everybody has a right to their own thinking. I simply can't listen to, there's been no change. And I know you don't watch every board meeting, and I know you don't watch every report that's, well, you may, Mark, that comes before the board because you've been here. But during the course of just the 6 months that I've been here, and I would like Brad to come back to the podium because I'm going to ask him to speak to Guidepost Report number 1 that they put out a few months ago when I'm done. We have changed all sorts of things. We have changed our entire system, policy, practice, forms, the collection of data, the review of data, the monitoring of data, all around threat assessments. We have trained groups of people. We have now trained our own in-house trainers so that we can train even more people on what to be aware of, how to process, what might be a real threat, what do you do when you see one. Hundreds of people here in this district are now trained, and we will continue that training. We will not give it up. People who have been here for a long time, we have new video and online training components that they will be required to take. We've done the same thing around bullying, because we know that's a disciplinary issue we have to deal with. We've done the same thing around suicide protocols, suicide awareness. We've hired additional family school liaison people. We've hired additional school counselors. We've hired additional school psychologists. Our mental health budget has expanded significantly. We now electronically record. In my office, I have paper copy of every threat assessment and suicide assessment that was done since September of this year, because we looked at all of them. And we looked at where were they completed properly and where did we have to train staff to complete them better. We now collect all that electronically, and we're able to review that electronically. We have safety, security, threat assessment meetings scheduled in every building going forward next year, every month, with our building administration, our building crisis teams, and our safety security people. All of this has been reported to this board all year long for the 6 months that I've been here. We had the Guidepost Report number 1 come out, all around what safety, what systems, what practices do we have in place, how do we rate right now in terms of safety, and how do we rate going forward. And I think Brad is going to come up here, and I hope he'll summarize for you. And I know you don't want to believe me, right? Because I'm an agent for these people, and so if you don't trust anybody there, you're not going to trust me. But even outside people are coming in, looking at our systems, and saying, you are well above the curve in terms of where you are with safety, security, and mental health. It's just not true that nothing's been done. It is not true. And in terms of the money we've spent on Drainer Road, that is to relocate Loft, an adult special education program housed in our high school in one small classroom where we cannot provide adequate training. I have a Loft parent in the audience who'll be glad to talk to you after this meeting. And we are now going to move them to a facility where they can have not only their adult learning environment, but they can have commercial businesses going on that these youngsters can actually take part of. We're going to move the high school alternative program called Bridges. High school kids are now housed in our middle school for their alternative high school program, which is not the best for them. It's also not the best for the middle school. They will be at Drainer Road. And finally, we have our entire virtual academy, elementary and secondary, in a strip mall off Lapeer Road. And they will be moving to Drainer Road, a much better facility for 3 kids. And yes, there was enough money left in the sinking fund that we could do it all without asking the taxpayers for another cent. And the sinking fund, by the way, cannot be used for mental health professionals. The sinking fund has rules around it. It can be used for buses. It can be used for technology. It can be used for facilities. That's about the category. It cannot be used for mental health. We used other state grants, other federal grants to expand our mental health. So I understand. No, I'm not engaging. I didn't question anybody who came to the microphone. So all I'm saying is, I absolutely expect your right to believe whatever you believe. But when it just becomes a body of things that are in my opinion, misrepresentations of what's been going on, then I just need to set the record straight in terms of what I'm seeing is happening. And that's all I wanted to say. And Brad, I'm wondering if you could speak to report number 1, because tonight our status of safety and security has been questioned significantly, and I don't believe your report gave any data that would cause those kinds of assumptions to be drawn.
So I'm going to answer this question in an unexpected way. So I led a team. We were the monitor for General Motors. And I led a team in that monitorship, and my responsibility was to look at how the validation department works. And when I was doing that, I learned a lot about confirmation, about validation, about verification. And when I hear you...
You might need the mic. I'm sorry, Brad.
When I hear you, Mr. Mayor, talking about upstream, I hear governance. Are we verifying? It's one thing to validate that things are in place. So I think, Vicki, you very succinctly, you obviously have our report memorized, and you very succinctly, talked about all the things that you have done and all the things that we have validated that are in the report. But I think there's a question around governance and a question about, are they working? It's one thing to have something in place. It's another thing to ask the question, are they working? And yes, our first report does go through a litany and a list of what changes have been made, what is in place. Our second report is going to discuss questions of what's happening upstream, questions of governance, what controls are in place to verify that just because you have something in place, is it working? And our objective in doing that is to help inform not only the board, but the community and yourself of, are there things in place that are working? Are there things in place that can be done differently and done better? So, to answer your question, I don't think it's fair to just repeat our report and say, hey, these things are in place. I think there's a secondary question. Correct me if I'm wrong. A question is, are they working? Like Mr. Mayor said, there might be 6 counselors there. Do they have adequate training to ensure that when a problem like occurred on November 30th comes to them, that they know how to adequately respond? And I think our second report is looking at that, looking at what happened, the facts of that day, and helping to inform the community and the board of our findings. And that's going to come out in our second report. And I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you answered my question. Actually, it was my question. And thank you. Yes. So we do have the things there. And I have data in my office, I don't know if you've asked for it or not, about is it working. I know what training the counselors have had. I know what numbers of students were reported for bullying back in February, March. I know what numbers of students were reported back in April, May, June. I know those numbers have gone down. I know what students are data kept on them in terms of students needing support, either Tier 1 or Tier 2 support. We call it multi-tier systems of report. It includes mental health counseling. It includes academic intervention. It includes behavioral intervention. We have a record of how many students are getting that kind of support at all of those different tiers. We watch those numbers of students to see if our numbers are going up or if our numbers are going down. That's how we score whether or not we're making progress. So we have evidence. I don't know if what Guidepost had asked for is going to give them the evidence, because their second reports is all about the day it happened. This district has not stood still from the day it happened, at least not in the 6 months I've been here. And I've seen a lot of stuff that occurred even before I came. And that's all I wanted to say in terms of setting the record straight. Well, the new database is now collecting everything that was being collected by hand is now being collected electronically, so it'll be even more efficient. Thank you for my time.
Okay, thank you, Vicki, for that clarification. Final board comments?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
I had one announcement. Our Erin Reese has been appointed to the Michigan Association of School Boards Resolution and Bylaws Committee. So she'll be working in Lansing with our state association to kind of upgrade those things. So congratulations to her.
Anything? No? Okay, this meeting is adjourned.